we have a full, exclusive, in-depth breakdown of the brand new Pokemon game, Pokemon Unite, which is finishing its Canadian beta today. Let's break it down.
Butterfree, go!
Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I bring you guys a brand new video today, and today we're gonna dive into the world of Pokemon Unite, the brand new Pokemon game set to release at some point in 2021, and I'm expecting it to be sooner than later. This game is developed by Tencent, which is known for a handful of different mobile games, and Pokemon Unite is gonna be coming out on the Nintendo Switch as well as mobile, and it is a MOBA, or an online battle arena game, in a similar light of like a League of Legends style game. I just mentioned that the beta has concluded, or is concluding today on the 15th in Canada, and it was previously in beta in China, and an insider who has access to the beta has provided me with an incredibly detailed document, 26 pages worth of information for you guys regarding the Pokemon Unite beta. I'm gonna break it all down for you guys, and we're gonna have our first thoughts, first look, and this person's opinion. So a big shout outs to @BexDK. She was so kind to hook me up with this information, and I'm really excited about this. So if you guys enjoy this and you're excited for Pokemon Unite, be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and get those notifications turned on. Take a second, show some love, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your initial impressions of Pokemon Unite? And after you hear everything I have to say and everything Bex sent our way, let me know if it changes your opinion or your thoughts of the brand new Pokemon game. I, for one, just honest takes, I'm excited to try it. It is a free-to-start game. We really don't know a ton about it just yet, outside of some gameplay footage. I think it's one of those things that I really got to play it to really get an understanding. But I think the insight that we have here in this document is really going to take us a long way. So let's dive in. Before we go into too much detail though, I do want to just make a note that we're going to be pretty mindful about the images we show here. The reason being is because this is under an embargo, and while I'm not the one who is initially leaking this information, I do want to be very mindful about screenshots and images, because when you join a beta, you're saying that you're not going to release that information. I was not in the beta at any point. I have not been in the beta. I have an iPhone and I'm in the United States, so I couldn't even get in the beta if I wanted to. So all this information is just what was passed along my way. With that disclosure behind us, let's take a look at Pokemon Unite. Alright, so the first thing we've got here is that it takes place in the Eos Institute, where Professor Forrest and her assistant Irby study Eos energy. The tutorial screen reveals that Forrest's partner is a Metagross and Irby's is an Elekid, and we see some pretty interesting information here. Some pretty cool screenshots. Again, I can't show you guys these screenshots. It's just not worth the risk on my end, but I will confirm all the things that I see. You control the selected Pokemon in the battlefield using Unite Balls from NPC Pokemon. The balls don't catch Pokemon, but actually they collect their Eos energy, and the object of the game, regardless of the mode, is to use Eos energy to score on the opponent's goal scores. At the bottom left, there's actually a movement slider for the mobile version, and this person actually indicates that it works pretty well most of the time on mobile, but it does slip occasionally. And Bex actually states that they're really hoping that the Switch version actually uses the button controls and not the touchscreen. And this is their only major complaint with the game. So Bex is saying that of all the experience they've had so far, the one big complaint they had was just the control on mobile. Your thumb can kind of slip off that control, but on the Switch that shouldn't be an issue, and they may kind of change the sensitivity moving forward outside of beta. The ball icon is going to show how much Eos energy you're carrying. You can carry up to 50 points. If you defeat an NPC or an opponent when you already have 50 points, the remaining points are dropped onto the ground as orbs that can be picked up by anyone. So if you already are at your max points and you're knocking something out, you're actually not benefiting. Your teammates could benefit, and that could be a part of strategy. If you're maxed out, you could be like telling your teammates to rally around you in closer proximity to ensure that they're grabbing that Eos energy and not the opponent. If you end up getting knocked out, you drop a portion of your points as orbs, which are indicated as unscored points. While you wait to respawn. When you enter the orange goal zone, you always play as the purple team. You can click this icon to score. The more points you're holding, the longer it takes you to score. Either instantly if you have 1 or 2 points, to several seconds if you're maxed out. If you're hit by an attack while you're trying to score, then you're interrupted, you have to try again. So basically when you're trying to score, it takes a little bit of time. The more points you have, or the more energy you have, the more points you'll essentially get, and you'll just have to charge up that score. While you're trying to score, you can't use any attacks, and whichever team scores the most points wins. That's pretty much it. You can send friend requests or report other players from the victory screen, which is very nice to know. Mer Stadium is one of the stadiums, and that was the primary map for the beta test. There's a quick play mode that has 3 different goals on both sides, so it seems as there are going to be different modes that allow players to play in a faster kind of pace as opposed to like a more drawn out game. Each of the goal zones actually have an HP bar as well. So as you score into a zone, that HP bar depletes and then that zone will become inactive, which I think is important to note. And on each side of the stadium, the players will spawn, obviously. When you're on your side of the field, you move quicker. When you're on your opponent's side of the field, you actually move slower. And then in neutral zones, basically anywhere that's not the main path, you're actually normal speed. So you move quicker on your side, slower on the opponent's side. When you stand on your own goals, you actually recover HP and have a low level shield. So it says that it can be really difficult to defeat an opponent standing on their own goal zone if you're working alone. So you should always be in pairs on the offensive, as Bex indicates here. And that makes a lot of sense. If they're standing on their own goal defending it and you're by yourself, they're regenning and they have a shield while they're doing that. So it's going to be very difficult to take them out. Bex also mentions that there's some patches of grass that you can actually stand in. And if you don't move, you might actually not even be seen by your opponent. So when you're standing on your own spawn point, you're shielded from damage and your HP does get restored. And while you're outside of the spawn point, there's actually an icon that you can select near your attack selection that'll teleport you back to your spawn point, but you have to hold it for a few seconds. It's not obviously an instantaneous teleport, but that could be a good way to get back to defend different goals. If you're too far extended out, you could teleport back to your spawn point and then move forward to try to defend the goals. When your HP goes all the way away and you get knocked out, you get teleported back to your spawn point after a period of time. Respawning at the beginning of a game could take as little as a couple seconds, but at the end it could take up to 30 seconds when you're in the late game. Bex actually explains that there's a third special attack icon, much like your ultimate move in Overwatch, which is something I'm familiar with, where you can use your third Unite move, which charges as you play in battle, but can only be used once you reach a high enough level stage. And that's usually when you reach your third stage for evolution. This unlocks your unlock level, and you gain XP and level up from fighting NPCs, the other team, and ultimately scoring. And then you activate this Overwatch-esque ultimate. Bex here breaks out what a standard non-tutorial match looks like. Berries will spawn in different areas. You can get HP recovering berries like citrus, salic berries to gain speed boosts. There's a full map or HUD that you can look at that's actually going to always show your teammates' positions and also highlight your opponents, outlined in orange, but it only highlights your opponent if they're invisible of your team's line of sight. As we know, Unite features NPC Pokemon or non-player character Pokemon that you can knock out to gather Aeos energy. And depending on the stadium, it seems as though there's different Pokemon that'll spawn. Like Mer's Stadium featured Apom, Lillipup, Corphush, Crawdaunt, Audino, and a Vespiquen that'll spawn with 3 Combies. And those are NPC characters that you'll knock out again to obtain that energy. Sometimes you'll get a special NPC to spawn. These Pokemon like Dreadnought or Rotom will actually be defeated, and then they act as like a payload, which will allow you to move towards your opponent's goal, providing shields, or actually moving towards the objective of capturing your opponent's points. And these are special NPCs that'll pop up from time to time. This also states that for certain Pokemon and most Pokemon, you're actually going to have different moves that you'll be able to unlock. You'll start off with Pikachu having Electro Web and Thunder Shock as its 2 main attacks, and you'll actually choose which one you want to use, and the other one will be unlocked by progressing that character. Bex indicates that there's a surrender option, so if you're getting absolutely pummeled, you can choose to surrender, and then you actually have a team vote to decide if the whole team is going to give up on a game. Towards the end of a match, a boss Pokemon is going to spawn. We've seen things like Zapdos spawn. The Zapdos at Mer Stadium requires a huge team effort to defeat. Once it's down, the team that beats it gets a huge endgame advantage. The opponent's goal zones become vulnerable. There's no longer a timer when scoring, and the goals are worth double their value. So if you beat this legendary in the end game, it's going to really enhance your chance of winning. They also indicate that there was a feedback questionnaire that mentioned a tree that spawns near the end of the game that you can use to add overtime, but it wasn't actually implemented in the demo, so that's something to keep an eye out for the full release. Now looking at some of these images, I see the home screen here, which shows some really cool stuff. You've got your challenge mode, your Pokemon, there's a shop, a battle pass, and events. And we've seen through other leaked images like Centro posting that there is indeed a battle pass, which is something that was very popularized in the Fortnite, where you actually pay a certain amount per month, you access this battle pass, and then ultimately as you play the game enough, you'll unlock extra items like skins, cosmetics, things like that to enhance your gameplay experience in Pokemon Unite. What's cool is there's like a trainer info that indicates a couple of different things like your profile, your battle record, your fair play points, which is going to show whether or not, you know, you've been a fair player player. One of the ways you can lose fair play points, for example, is if you try to forfeit a match while your team is winning. You'll actually lose points for that. I think if you were to probably leave a game in general or shut your console off or whatever, you'd probably lose some points. I would imagine if, like, you know, maybe your teammates report you because of toxic play, you'll probably lose points because of that. But it does seem as though they're implementing a system to try to reward players for playing well and, like, good as part of a team, and also kind of knock players who don't follow suit. One thing is when you're looking at the different Pokemon, there's a really cool stat breakout. You can actually see what their difficulty is in terms of novice, expert, etc. There's also ranged attackers. It shows the different roles that the Pokemon fulfill, which is also indicated by their background colors. And then it also talks about a little bit about their different kind of overviews, their offense, endurance, mobility, scoring, and support, how these different Pokemon function. So it does seem as though kind of teaming up and really forming a good team of Pokemon that have different roles is going to be the most effective strategy in Unite. And I'll be honest, for me, I've never really played a game like Pokemon Unite, but I have played Overwatch, and I think there are some comparisons here. We talk about Overwatch, and they actually implemented a 2-2-2 strategy where you have to basically have 2 of each of the different roles fit. A support, you have to have a tank, 2 offensive, like, striker kind of type of characters. So it's going to be interesting to see how Unite plays out. Like, if the most popular characters are all kind of offensive strikers, are people going to kind of head towards that? And are you going to have this kind of really negative player base in the sense where, like, people are forced or pigeonholed into roles? I think this game is going to really, people who are able to adapt to different roles are really going to be able to flourish, especially since, you know, if you're not playing with a group of people, you're kind of dealing with the randomness of who you connect with. There's a nice interface that actually shows the different attacks that your Pokemon are get, like Pikachu having Electro Web, Volt Tackle, Thunderbolt. It talks about their different, you know, kind of what they do. They slow down your opponent's cooldown, things like that. Could also make them unable to move. All sorts of cool stuff, but that's all through their kind of interface as outside of battle. You can see all that stuff outside of battle. And the Pokemon even have passive abilities. This is really interesting. Pikachu has one that's static. It decreases the opponent's movement speed near it for a short time when it takes damage. So again, all these Pokemon have another ability. There's a whole nother layer here. Bex indicates that there's 3 currencies that are visible right now. There's coins, that's the main ones that you earn from matches. Aos tickets and gems are earned through daily challenges and leveling up, and those are used to buy special items and hollowware or in place of coins. So coins are probably going to be the default currency that you're getting for everything, and then to buy any of the good stuff, the monetization stuff, that's most likely going to be the special items, hollowware, things like that. You're going to need Aos tickets and gems, as most free-to-play gacha style games are like. One of the cool things that we didn't know about is that there's an item system you unlock at level 4. You actually get an item that can be activated for your character, like potions, full heals, X attacks. You can actually equip up to 3 more items. You start with 1 equipped slot, and then you unlock other equipped items as you go. You can get things like scope lenses, wise glasses, leftovers, assault vests, and more that give you passive boosts. These items can be leveled up as well, up to a level of 30 by the item enhancers mentioned earlier. Upgrading an item will only cost a few enhancers at first, but you need it to get more enhancers as you go. So this adds another dimension to this game that I really did not anticipate. The held item option, the fact that you can level up these held items, there is a lot of depth to this game. There is a friend list system, so you can easily add people after matches. And after playing 5 matches with a friend, you can activate the voice chat feature. Very interesting to note. To break out some of the playable Pokemon in the demo, it was Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, which is a ranged attacker. It's very top tier, apparently. Charizard, of course, not as popular as people are saying. It was a melee all-around attacker. Blastoise was a ranged defender. Pikachu, a ranged attacker. Alolan Ninetales, ranged attacker, very popular in the beta. Machop, Machamp, etc. I'm just going to say the final evolution, but just know that you have to evolve generally. Machamp was... This was the mon that they saw the least, I guess, as a melee attacker. Slowbro, ranged defender. Gengar, melee, very fast. Mr. Mime was a supporter. Snorlax was a defender. Gardevoir was an attacker. Absol was a speedster and a melee attacker. Garchomp was kind of their second main. Very, very good all around. Lucario, very popular. Crustle was a defender. Greninja was a ranged attacker. Talonflame was very fast. Cinderace, ranged attacker. Eldegoss, ranged supporter. Cramorant was a ranged attacker. And it said, interesting to note that there's no baby pre-evolutions. Zeraora did not appear in the demo. I've seen mention of Clefable and Wigglytuff, but they didn't appear either. In all current game modes, a Pokemon can be used by one person on a team, and it can be used on both teams, much like Overwatch. So another Overwatch comparison. So if I choose Charizard, no one else on my team can choose Charizard, but the other team can choose Charizard. And finally, we have Beck's final take here. I enjoyed Unite way more than I expected. The bases are pretty straightforward, although I think that the game's full tutorial is more thorough. If you've got a strong team on your side, it feels awesome, and honestly, a strong opposing team makes the game more exciting too. You don't always get paired with a bunch of good people, but I think that's where the potential of a friends list is, especially for ranked. There's a ton of opportunity for more playable Pokemon and even different game modes with a bit of creativity. I hope there's support from the devs from this game moving forward. Even in beta, I didn't feel like there was a ton that needed fixing in my opinion. A few Pokemon were clearly more popular, so there's room for balancing, but I saw a pretty decent variety most of the time. I'm really looking forward to seeing what future maps look like, and I feel like between the playable mons and the NPCs, there's a lot of good representation across all generations. So first of all, thank you again to Bex for sharing your inside look and an exclusive look here on the aDrive channel. Very, very epic. And after looking through all this and seeing these screenshots, which I wish I could show you guys, I actually am more excited about Unite now than I have been all along. And again, that Canadian beta is ending today on the 15th, so we have a lot of reason to believe that this game could be coming out real soon in the next few weeks. I don't anticipate a shadow drop at this time. I do believe that there will be an announcement for it, and they'll say it's coming out, but be prepared. I know I will. I think this thing could drop at any point, guys. We'll have to see. I do anticipate they announce it first, though. If you guys enjoyed this Unite video, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and get those notifications turned on. Let me know your thoughts on Unite. Are you excited for me to cover this on the channel? Smash that like button if you guys are, and I hope to see you guys with some Unite footage soon. Thank you for watching. My name is Dan. I also go by aDrive, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Pikachu.